On a peaceful morning in a quiet Florida neighborhood, the silence was suddenly shattered by the sound of gunfire. When police arrived at the scene, they were unprepared for the horrifying sight behind the locked door, a scene so gruesome it would shake even the most seasoned officers. At around the same time, not far from the first scene, a wave of emergency calls began pouring into 911 dispatch in Gainesville, a tranquil town in north-central Florida. At approximately 5:30 a.m. on March 8, 2025, several gunshots rang out in a quiet residential area, abruptly ending the calm of the early morning. Awakened by the noise, residents immediately called the police. Within just over 10 minutes of the first report, a SWAT team from the nearest police station arrived at the scene. Inside the apartment, officers found a man and a woman lying in a pool of blood, showing no signs of life. The man had been shot in the head, while the woman had sustained 2 gunshot wounds to the chest. The apartment was tidy, with no signs of struggle, and family photos on the walls suggested the two were a married couple. Less than 3 feet from the bodies, a Sig Sauer P320 pistol lay abandoned on the floor. Nearby, officers recovered 7 shell casings scattered across the room and immediately began collecting fingerprints from the weapon. According to a SWAT officer on site, the 10mm handgun is fairly common on the market, known for its high accuracy and reliability despite being priced under $800 USD. As officers thoroughly inspected the property, they found no signs of forced entry through any windows or evidence of a struggle, suggesting the shooter may have been someone familiar, perhaps even willingly let in by the victims. Using identification documents found at the scene, police quickly identified the victims. The woman was 28-year-old Weilu Liu, a Chinese citizen and beloved piano teacher in the community. The man was her husband, Jonathan Rivera, a U.S. citizen. The news left neighbors in shock. One recalled seeing the couple just the evening before, casually chatting while out for a walk. "They looked so happy together," he said, visibly shaken. "I still can't believe this happened. They seemed like they really loved each other." Weilu Liu was not only well regarded by her neighbors, but also deeply respected in the local music community. She taught piano lessons from her home to more than 15 students, earning the full trust of parents who admired both her teaching skills and her gentle, professional demeanor. Because of these close community ties, investigators began their initial inquiries with nearby residents. Officers conducted interviews with multiple households in the area, many of whom were willing to cooperate and offered whatever details they could recall from the night of the incident. Among the witness statements, one individual reported seeing the couple around 6:30 p.m., the evening before the incident, casually shopping together at a nearby supermarket. They appeared completely normal, calm, relaxed, and showing no signs of stress or tension. However, not long afterward, 2 other neighbors provided far more revealing details. One woman living near the apartment recalled that at around 5 a.m. on the morning of the incident, she clearly heard the couple arguing loudly, followed shortly by a series of gunshots that broke the neighborhood's silence. Another neighbor told police that Weilu Liu had once indirectly hinted at being a victim of domestic abuse by her husband Jonathan. He remembered that she didn't share many specifics, but quietly admitted that Jonathan had slapped her multiple times that day. The same neighbor recounted that not long after, he saw Weilu Liu with a bandage wrapped around her arm. When he asked about it, she simply said she had hurt herself doing housework. Still, her lowered gaze and hesitant voice made him feel something wasn't right. From these seemingly minor details, investigators gradually uncovered a side of the marriage that had long been hidden. A travel record from December 2023 later revealed even more crucial information. According to that document, police had previously responded to a report of a dispute between a couple at a movie theater parking lot. When officers arrived, they found Weilu Liu with a flushed face, blood at the corner of her mouth, visibly trembling and in a state of panic, as if she had just endured both physical and emotional trauma. Yet no arrest was made at the time. After some discussion, Weilu Liu managed to calm herself and insisted that it was just a heated emotional misunderstanding between the two of them, and that nothing serious had happened. Although the officer remained suspicious, he ultimately respected her decision not to press charges. It wasn't until forensic evidence began to take shape that the investigation gained clarity. The Sig Sauer P320 handgun found at the scene was confirmed to have been legally purchased by Jonathan in April 2023 with proper registration. Investigators then analyzed the firearm and recovered a single fingerprint belonging to Jonathan. More importantly, the trajectory and angle of the bullet wound in Jonathan's head aligned precisely with the forensic team's conclusion. Jonathan had fatally shot Weilu Liu before turning the gun on himself. The case took an even darker turn when police discovered that, just 3 days before the murder-suicide, Jonathan had made an unusual bank withdrawal, taking out $9,800 in a single transaction. What stood out was that his total account balance was just under $10,000, suggesting this may have been a final, premeditated move leading up to a calculated act. Weilu Liu, originally from Wuhan, China, was a young woman who showed a remarkable talent and deep passion for music from an early age. After earning her undergraduate degree in music from Central China Normal University, she made the bold decision to pursue further academic studies abroad. In 2015, Weilu came to the United States alone to pursue a master's degree in music and fine arts at Columbus State University. It was during her time at Columbus State that she made a lasting impression on her mentor, renowned pianist Henry Kramer. He recalled that Weilu Liu not only demonstrated outstanding technical skill, but also possessed a rare artistic sensibility. She was, in his words, one of the most promising students I have ever taught. Beyond academics, Weilu Liu was an active performer during her studies, appearing in concerts across several countries. On stage, she exuded confidence and composure. Just a month before the tragedy, she performed the piece Butterfly Lovers at a Lunar New Year celebration hosted by Florida's Chinese community. The crowd responded with thunderous applause, many captivated by her masterful technique and graceful presence. Yet, despite a blossoming career and what seemed like a peaceful life, her journey came to a sudden and tragic end. News of her death stunned friends and loved ones. Her family in China, unable to travel to the U.S. due to visa restrictions, could not attend her funeral. In response, Henry Kramer stepped forward to organize a fundraiser to cover the funeral expenses. In just a few days, donations exceeded $10,000. Former classmates and neighbors left heartfelt messages of farewell, expressing their grief and admiration. Through the course of the investigation, police determined that Weilu Liu had met Jonathan Rivera through a mutual friend. Jonathan was a former U.S. Army soldier who had served in the 101st Airborne Division, one of the military's elite units, from 2010 to 2016, during which time he participated in several combat operations in Afghanistan. After leaving the military, Jonathan transitioned into a career in real estate. He had a stable job and a decent income. His disciplined military background and rugged good looks initially drew Weilu to him, while her gentle charm and refined personality made him fall for her quickly in return. As their relationship deepened, the two eventually married, marking a new chapter in Weilu Liu's life. After their marriage, she successfully obtained a green card through the spousal visa program, becoming a permanent U.S. resident. She then opened a home-based piano studio, which soon attracted several local families. However, behind the seemingly happy exterior, cracks in the relationship quietly began to show. According to one of Weilu's close friends, Jonathan gradually revealed a darker side after the wedding, marked by negativity and a controlling nature. Specifically, he disliked socializing and tried to restrict Weilu's relationships, particularly objecting to her spending time with Chinese friends. He reportedly even used her immigration status as leverage, threatening to revoke her green card. During arguments, he would weaponize her immigration situation to mentally manipulate her and insult her with degrading language. Around the same time, Jonathan's career began to collapse. The real estate industry was going through a difficult period, and he kept losing sources of steady income. By November 2024, after being accused of deceiving clients, Jonathan officially had his real estate license revoked and fell into full unemployment. The fallout wasn't just financial, it took a deep psychological toll as well. Jonathan became increasingly irritable and violent, and Weilu Liu became the target of his outbursts. On one occasion, he reportedly threatened her with a gun inside their home, yelling that he would kill everyone. Weilu stood frozen in terror. But then, in a sudden emotional breakdown, Jonathan began to cry, dropped to his knees, and apologized, claiming he had lost control under immense pressure. Because of this, Weilu Liu chose to forgive him, partly because she didn't want to escalate the situation further, and partly out of fear that involving the police would destroy Jonathan's last chance of re-entering the workforce. The incident in the movie theater parking lot was one of the most serious episodes from that turbulent period. Now, with the tragedy having finally unfolded, people are beginning to realize that behind all that silence was a long, hidden history of abuse, a heart quietly breaking, yet still holding on to the hope that things would eventually change. Tragically, Weilu Liu's case is not an isolated one. In recent years, there have been occasional reports of Chinese women being killed by their American husbands. These heartbreaking stories have served as sobering reminders that cross-cultural marriages, often viewed through an idealized lens, can carry very real and dangerous risks. One such case occurred at the end of 2023, when a domestic violence incident that turned fatal shocked the Chinese community in the San Francisco Bay Area. The victim was a 40-year-old woman of Chinese descent, and the perpetrator was none other than her former husband. Just a few days later, on January 8, 2024, the Los Gatos Police Department received a report from a tech company in Silicon Valley. A Chinese female employee, Yu Ying, had been absent without explanation since January 1st. She wasn't answering her phone or responding to messages. Colleagues and supervisors tried to reach her without success, and concerns quickly mounted that she might be missing. Given the urgency, police immediately launched an investigation, starting with a visit to her home in Los Gatos, a wealthy neighborhood ranked 33rd nationwide by Businessweek, located near Silicon Valley and known for its sky-high property prices. There, the person who answered the door was Yu Ying's husband, John Joerger, a 56-year-old American engineer employed at a well-known tech firm in Silicon Valley. With a respectable title and a high salary, Joerger had long been regarded as a model husband, the kind of reliable, successful man many women would consider ideal. However, when questioned by police about Yu Ying's whereabouts, Joerger claimed he had no idea where she had gone. He also added that the couple had actually been separated and in the process of filing for divorce for the past 3 years. To verify his statements, police quickly reviewed the divorce records and confirmed that the information was true. According to court documents, Yu Ying had officially filed for divorce in August 2020, citing irreconcilable differences and a prolonged conflict between the couple. What surprised investigators, however, was the fact that more than 3 years later, the divorce had still not been finalized. The case file indicated that the proceedings were ongoing, with a court note warning that if no progress was made within 18 months, the petition would be dismissed. This unusually long delay became the first major red flag in the investigation. Even more suspicious was the fact that Yu Ying had filed for divorce just 3 months after marrying John Joerger. There were no specific allegations of abuse or explosive arguments in the petition, only a vague claim that the couple was incompatible, leading many to question whether signs of domestic violence had existed from the very beginning. Those suspicions grew stronger when police uncovered Yu Ying's final 911 call, placed on the night of December 31st, 2023, just 1 day before she disappeared. In the audio recording, she can be heard in a panic, reporting domestic abuse. But the call was cut off abruptly, and she never provided an address. Shortly afterward, a neighbor's doorbell camera captured critical footage at exactly 9:35 p.m. that same night. Yu Ying appeared on screen in a state of distress, running to the neighbor's door and knocking desperately while glancing over her shoulder in fear. Moments later, a tall man, identified as John Joerger, entered the frame and began chasing after her. Yu tried to flee. However, just minutes later, the camera caught another disturbing scene. John Joerger grabbing Yu Ying by the shoulders and forcing her back toward their house. Throughout the struggle, Yu cried out for help and resisted. But on that quiet New Year's Eve night, no one was around to hear her or intervene. From that moment, the investigation entered a critical phase. Police quickly summoned John Joerger for questioning. At first, he attempted to remain calm, refused to cooperate, and invoked his right to remain silent, clearly trying to stall the investigation. But detectives already had mounting evidence. Just 1 week after Yu Yingying's disappearance, surveillance footage captured John Joerger driving toward the Santa Cruz Mountains and entering a remote forest area. Faced with overwhelming proof, John Joerger eventually confessed. According to his testimony, on the night of December 31st, a heated argument broke out over unresolved issues from their past. In a fit of uncontrolled rage, he strangled Yu Yingying with a rope until she died. To cover up the crime, he kept her body in the house for several days. When decomposition and odor began to set in, he decided to transport the body to the mountains and dispose of it in an isolated forest. Based on John Joerger's testimony, investigators immediately searched the area he identified. Deep within a remote section of the Santa Cruz Mountains, they discovered the severely decomposed body of Yu Yingying. After completing a full forensic examination and compiling all necessary evidence, the district attorney's office officially charged John Joerger with multiple serious offenses, including first-degree murder, unlawful imprisonment, use of a deadly weapon, and 6 additional aggravating circumstances. Coincidentally, another shocking murder case also began under the guise of a picture-perfect marriage. In 2022, on the island of Fiji in the South Pacific, what was supposed to be a dream honeymoon turned into a brutal crime. The victim was 39-year-old pharmacist Christy Chen, and the perpetrator was her newlywed husband, Bradley Robert Dawson. The couple had been staying at the renowned Turtle Island Resort, where nightly rates can reach $3,500. But just days into their trip, a housekeeping staff member found Chen's body in the villa's living room. She had suffered extensive trauma, particularly to the head. The autopsy confirmed that she died from blunt force trauma to the skull, and her body showed multiple signs of physical abuse at varying degrees of severity. Several hotel employees reported hearing a loud argument coming from the couple's room on the night of the incident. Meanwhile, Dawson had mysteriously vanished. Police issued a warrant for his arrest, and after a 36-hour search, they located him on a nearby island. During interrogation, Dawson was evasive, refused to provide a DNA sample, and denied any involvement. But physical evidence from the scene ultimately exposed his lies and forced him to face the truth. What made the case even more disturbing was how quickly the relationship had developed. Christy Chen and Bradley Dawson had only known each other for 3 months before getting married. Their shared work in the pharmaceutical field created a sense of understanding between them. On paper, Chen was a licensed pharmacist, while Dawson was a pharmaceutical scientist. According to public records, Dawson had no criminal history before the marriage and had even been active in a children's charity, providing healthcare services to low-income families. That's why friends and family of Christy Chen still struggle to accept what happened. They recall how happy and hopeful she was when she accepted his proposal, how excited she had been about the dream honeymoon. No one could have imagined that the man who promised to love and protect her for life would instead end it so violently. After more than 3 years of investigation and court proceedings, in February 2025, the court sentenced Bradley Dawson to life in prison without the possibility of parole for first-degree murder. From a broader perspective, these cases all share a tragic origin: domestic violence without exception. At a deeper level, they expose a structural vulnerability, the hidden dangers that can accompany international marriages. Statistics from public data sources show that Chinese women living in the United States are 3.2 times more likely to experience partner violence compared to native-born women. This is not a random coincidence. It is the result of a complex web of social, legal, and psychological factors. A deeper investigation reveals that language barriers are one of the main reasons many of these women struggle to accurately convey their situation when victimized. Identity-based dependency creates an imbalance in legal status, making the path to leaving an abusive relationship far more daunting. Additionally, cultural differences and varying levels of social awareness often prevent them from fully assessing a partner's mental health or personality before marriage. Further data shows that over 60% of domestic violence victims within the Chinese American community remain silent. That silence often stems from immigration-related insecurity, lack of connection to support systems, and cultural pressures that view family conflict as taboo. Together, these forces create a deep sense of isolation and leave victims unable to seek help. A love song ended in gunfire. Behind the wedding photos were years of blood, tears, and suffocating silence. They once loved each other, but that love turned into tragedy, right inside their shared home. This is no longer just the story of one couple. It is a wake-up call for anyone who blindly believes in the illusion of happiness. What are your thoughts on this case? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this video meaningful, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss our next investigation.